beg your pardon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just addressing, I think, one issue you touched on the end, which is the partial reversing cuts in police officers. We were recently told that we were going to receive 4,500 officers as part of the government's national uplift, well short of the 6,000 the Commissioner called for from government to keep London safe. I'm concerned, for one, about the Met's capacity to deal with non-violent crimes that are high in volume, such as burglary and theft. One particular issue that's affecting my constituency is catalytic converter theft, which is on the rise and has risen over 77% in Brent and Harrow over the last few years. If the Met is to prevent crimes such as these, how important is it to have the adequate policing numbers to address them?
You raise an issue that causes real distress to those Londoners who own vehicles who've had their catalytic converter pinched. People come along, jack up the car, saw the exhaust off, take away that catalytic converter and make money from its cell. So on the one hand, we're carrying lobbying the government for more police officers. We're still being shortchanged. I met the Home Secretary this week and lobbied her again for more police officers. And the reason why it's important, because if we're having to ration the time police officers have because they're limited numbers, those sorts of offences, which cause huge distress to some Londoners, aren't a priority that they should be. And so in the absence of us getting the officers we need, the police still are working hard. We're making sure that we are having cat marking events using the smart water products. We're working with those who have cash for scrap to do what we can to avoid these materials having money made from them. And we're doing more that we can to work with the Society of Motor Manufacturers in relation to what they can do to help us in this area. But that's one example of a consequence of cuts in policing over an 11-year period.
Thank you. And research that I've sought from the police has found that 86% of these crimes occur on Toyota, Honda or Lexus vehicles. I've written to these companies just to see what they can do to... we've got a recall system, for example, where we have safety defects that vehicles can be called back to the manufacturer to fix them. Would you join my call to make sure that those vehicles that are more susceptible to these type of crimes are called back so that they can be made as safe as possible without charge to the consumer? Because it's an issue that I think that we were unaware of when these vehicles were produced or sold. The newer ones seem to have tackled it, but the older vehicles are still being susceptible to this crime. Is this something that you'd like to see manufacturers do more on?
Well, Chair, Senator Hirani has raised a really important issue, and a good example of where his expertise can help me. So why don't I, Chair, I speak to the Senator member offline. He can share with me the letters he's written, and I can amplify that. I can also make contact with the manufacturers he's talking about and ask the police also to use Senator member Hirani's expertise to write to the Society of Motor Manufacturers as well, who are the umbrella group, because I think some of your experience locally and the work you've done, we may be able to amplify across the rest of London as well.
Thank you. And just addressing police numbers as well. Yesterday I had the pleasure of joining the new Wembley Town Centre team. It's part of the new initiative of Town Centre teams that you're rolling out all across London. It's having a real difference in increasing public confidence. We spoke about trust in the police before in other Assembly member questions, but businesses and residents that I spoke to also were very receptive, and they felt that actually police were on the streets and were around, and 21 officers in just a small space, 21 additional officers is making such a huge difference.
That's fantastic. You'll be aware the reassurance gives people, particularly at night time, women and girls, seen high visibility policing, but also businesses love seeing police officers in their town centres as well, and I'm really pleased. We've got these 620 additional officers in our town centres. The latest tranche will be joining in February. A good example of the investment from City Hall and the benefits of our lobbying, which some didn't like in this Assembly, which has led to a partial U-turn from the government.
Thank you.